Sorry you caught me by surprise.
Okay. Sorry about that. It was you were next on the agenda.
Well, yeah, but there was somebody who declined.
Oh, that's right. The
so.
civilian coalition was supposed to be there. So, sorry about that.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay. So hello, my name is Kay Hartman, and along with Glenn Bailey, who's not here right now, we are the co-chairs of the Budget Advocates. Today, we'd like to briefly review what we've provided you in the handouts. In your folders, you will see recommendations pulled from the department reports we wrote for the white paper. We also pulled out into a separate report the recommendations for increasing revenues and efficiencies that could lead to increased ability to deliver services. The last report from the recommendations tells which budget themes can be found in which reports. We're going to present the white paper introduction to you today. A copy of it can be found in your folder. Finally, we have a report of the concerns expressed by the 2023 Budget Day advocates, Budget Day attendees. Each of the concerns lists all of the comments related to it, sorted by the area of the city for the person or people who raised it. Everything on the left side of your folder either comes from our annual white paper or is derived from it. Everything on the left side is not. In February 2023, Mayor Bass declared Los Angeles is open for business. Unfortunately, Los Angeles is not delivering results for its stakeholders. The business of governing the city's finances does not appear to be open. Who is doing the work of the city? Who is doing the business of managing the city? The mayor's 2024 to 2025 budget proposes to shrink the budget gap by eliminating nearly 2,000 positions that have been funded but never staffed. With a 20% vacancy rate, this saves the city a considerable amount of money. Closing the open positions not only shrinks the budget gap, it also leaves us to it also leaves us to deal with the inadequate services we've been living with while the city was and now will continue to be understaffed. This leaves us with insufficient oversight because those departments who are charged with providing it are understaffed, and it leaves us without a plan that can guide our future. Why is the city forced to take these drastic measures? To pay for the raises it gave to its employees, sworn and civilian, in 2 new budget contracts finalized in 2024. Don't get us wrong, we want our employees to earn a good wage. It makes it easier to hire and keep employees, but we also want a way to pay for those wages. We find ourselves in this position with every labor agreement renegotiation. It's not like we don't know it's coming. We never seem to have a financial plan for it, and thus the repeated deficits. One could point at the city's liability payouts that are significant and say this is why we have a budget gap. But the city has liability claims every year and plans for them. A budget gap of the size we're facing occurs when we negotiate new labor agreements. Exacerbating the issue, at the same time we negotiated these new labor agreements, our anticipated revenues are below projections, and the state's deficit means fewer dollars flowing from the state government to the city. The city has long been facing a services deficit. Our sidewalks are crumbling, our urban forest needs serious attention, our streets are dirty. The city frequently pointed to the 20% vacancy rate to explain why repairs took so long. The positions were included in the budget, but we couldn't find the staff to do the work. Now, with the city eliminating most of the open positions, we're being told there won't be a decrease in services because the services weren't being provided anyway. This answer doesn't cut it. If we are going to deny services to the city stakeholders, if we are going to let the city to decay, we need to have a plan that shows how we catch up. Given the current spending gap, Los Angeles will experience pain for the next 4 to 5 years. We can turn this pain into an opportunity by doing the hard work to truly turn the city around and not just manage the deficits until the economy improves. The budget advocates make some suggestions here to increase transparency and provide better fiscal management.
Hi, my name is Lionel Morris. I'm a budget advocate from Region 1. The budget advocates make suggestions have to increase transparency and provide better fiscal management. Fiscal manager. The city is crying for someone to run its physical house. Call the position city manager as the budget advocates first recommended in 2019. Call the position the Office of Transparency and Accountability as the budget advocates first recommended in 2017. Call the position Chief Financial Officer as Washington, D.C. does, and by the way, their CFO was able to put the district's financial house in order. Call the position Fred. It doesn't matter what the position is called. What matters is the city needs an independent actor with overall tactical, physical responsibility. The mayor and city council can set the city's strategy. They have not shown themselves able to take a tactical approach to protect the city's finances. We pay fees for less work, a fee-for-service model towards which head with every passing year is inherently inequitable. The fiscal manager can develop a plan to address the structural and services deficits. None of our politicians seem willing to do this, so let's create a position for somebody whose job it will be.
Multi-year budgeting. In its 2012 white paper, the budget advocates called for multi-year budgeting and have been repeating the call in the years since. Now Controller Mejia calls for 2-year budgeting. 2 years is a good start. The budget advocates continue to advocate for multi-year budgeting. While the charter requires the mayor to deliver a budget for the next fiscal year on or before April 20th, it doesn't prohibit the mayor from delivering a budget beyond the next fiscal year. The mayor could develop a 2-year budget and still deliver the next fiscal year according to the charter's mandate. There's nothing in the charter that prevents the mayor from having thought through a multi-year budget.
A civil service reform. The city needs to find a way to overcome its employment logjam. The civil service bureaucracy remains stubborn in spite of Mayor Bass and Personnel Department General Manager Brown's desire to reform it. Departments are still waiting for a certain list of people which they can hire, and the list still fall out of date, leaving departments with no choice but to wait. Even departments that have up-to-date cert lists find the process to hire so lengthy and cumbersome that filling these ranks is very difficult. By the time offers can be made, many candidates have found other employment. This logjam must be broken. Civil service reform, which is under discussion, must be undertaken. The city cannot afford to wait. While we're reforming civil service, we need to reform employee compensation. The new 2023 contract for LAPD moved the city budget into deficit even before the city began to negotiate the civilian contracts. The deficit will only worsen. It is expected to rise to $1 billion a year by 2028, greater than 7.5% of the city's $12.8 billion budget. In the past, one worked in civil service job knowing the pay was less than in the private sector, and the benefits, including retirement, were rich. The city is now improving the pay so civil service workers in the city can get the private sector benefit of good pay and the public sector benefit of good benefits and generous retirement. If the city is going to pay market rate for its employees, it should consider moving to a 475B plan to make the employees partners in building their retirement benefits.
A plan for moving forward. The city government's job is to deliver services. With the current cancellation of most open positions, how can the city provide the services its residents expect? It cannot. What is the plan to move forward? What is the plan to fix the structural deficit? What is the plan to fix the services deficit? While some individual departments have 5-year plans, the city does not. It needs one. We can't keep bouncing in and out of deficit like we do. We can't keep ignoring our crumbling infrastructure. In its 2017 white paper, the budget advocates began to call for long-range planning. The need continues today. We are in a politically creative financial crisis that could have been avoided or minimized or mitigated with some planning.
A strong reserve fund. The temptation is to cover budget gap by using the reserve funds. The reserve funds are there to protect the city in case of emergency. The city would have been in big trouble in 2020 if we hadn't had the reserve funds to cover our financial obligations until federal money arrived when the COVID-19 pandemic shut everything down, leaving the city without revenues. Thank goodness we had that money. The budget advocates urged the city to maintain our reserves at 10% of the budget and to use those reserves only for emergencies and not to cover the budget gaps that arise from the normal cost of business.
Civic openness in negotiations. The city should explore moving to an open labor agreement negotiations using civic openness in negotiations, COIN, or some other framework. All of the constituents of the labor agreements, voters and union members, would benefit from a more open process. COIN is legal in California, and has been practiced by Beverly Hills, Costa Mesa, and Fullerton. COIN is supported in a September 21st, 2015 Los Angeles Times editorial, Los Angeles could use more COIN.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, unions' influence over elected officials. Through ethics reform, we need to treat union officials who are lobbying on behalf of their unions as registered lobbyists. Campaign contributions from the funds of labor unions should be prohibited. This is not to limit individual union members from lobbying their individual elected officials, a right enjoyed by every stakeholder in Los Angeles. This is not to prevent individual union members from contributing to the candidates of their choice. People whose job is to lobby must be treated like all other lobbyists.
Additional departments whose positions should not be cut. The departments on whom the functioning of the city depends, such as personnel and the Information Technology Agency, need to be funded. Emergency management is more than our first responders, and the Emergency Management Department should also be funded. The Personnel Department has a lot of work to do on civil service reform and compensation reform. Personnel was among the departments cut in response to the 2008-2009 financial crisis. As the city's finances improved, personnel was too underfunded to handle the rush of open positions. We should not repeat this mistake. Allow the personnel department to keep its open positions so it can do the reform work on its plate and prepare for the hiring rush that will happen when the finances improve. The city works with an IT network that is greater than 60% end of life. Radio repairs, critical and emergencies are underfunded. The city cannot work efficiently if its computer systems, radio technology, and networks are not current. The city must catch up and can only do so by keeping the Information Technology Agency's positions open. Emergency management is critical for the safety of the city's residents. No one can predict when the next earthquake, pandemic, freeway collapse, or other crisis will hit. The Emergency Management Department, for our own protection, should be funded and its positions be kept. Additionally, any positions working on grant applications and grant management should be retained, since the people filling these positions bring money into the city. Some people are thinking about preparedness for the Olympics in 2028. We're wondering if we're prepared for day-to-day life in 2025. The Budget Advocates sponsored 3 budget-related events since last year's budget hearings. The registration data show a total of 415 non-unique people representing 93 unique neighborhood councils had interest in participating in discussions about the city's budget. The data tell us we are delivering on our mandate to engage the neighborhood councils. The Budget Advocates were barred for 3 years from raising funds. The ability of neighborhood councils to contribute to our work was restored just last year. Neighborhood council funding is at an all-time low, making contributions more difficult to come by. Traditionally, the city contributes $10,000 to cover some of our expenses. We ask the Budget, Finance, and Innovation Committee to restore the traditional funds of our work to the Neighborhood Council Budget Day Fund in the Budget Advocacy account. It is a drop in the bucket compared to the city budget, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for this opportunity to present our thoughts to you. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate both the presentation, but all of the hard work that goes into it, and the many folks who volunteer their time, who care about this city, who are part of our neighborhood council system. I just wanted to start with just a little bit of gratitude, because everyone else in this room, that's their day-to-day job, but when you all come in, it's a fresh perspective, because you all are just focused on, caring about our city and how do we make it better. So first, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, you got a lot of great suggestions, and I'm going to keep them with me as we go through and bring each department together. I'm curious, you're, part of the neighborhood councils is dealing specifically with, city departments and the services they provide. That's a prime role. Are there particular things you think that the city departments can do differently or better to provide those service delivery better in our communities?
There are, and if you look through the first thing on the left side, maybe the second thing on the left side of your handout, we make recommendations for each of the cities that we had the opportunity to have a meeting with and write a report. So yeah, I mean, there's pages of them.
Okay, colleagues, any comments or questions from colleagues for our neighborhood budget advocates? Ms. Rodriguez.
No, I wanted to echo our gratitude for this list, and we know how challenging it is. You all equally get some of the calls and the concerns and community members coming at the neighborhood council level with concerns about services and whatnot. So we appreciate the recommendations, and thank you for the time spent on really considering what we need to be doing differently. These are, to get consensus is a challenge on how exactly what direction that we all move towards. But I don't think there's a lot of disagreement here about some of the things that you've proposed. In fact, we're trying to make all those pieces fit, right, with all the priorities. But thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time.
And I thank you all also, because I know that making the pieces fit, as Councilmember Rodriguez just said, is a very difficult job, and I don't envy you.
And you all have a budget day coming up. You want to tell us about that? That's coming in June, is that right?
Absolutely. We have Budget Day is June 15th. It will be right here in council chambers. I hope to see you all there. I hope, Councilmember Blumenfield, that you will join us for a keynote address. We're going to be talking about the challenges that we face as we've outlined from our perspective today. And we'll have representatives from the city. We've got a representative from the Chamber of Commerce to bring us the business point of view. So I think it'll be a great event, and I hope we'll see you all there.
Great. Kay, Lionel, thank you so much for coming in and for all the work that you do throughout the year.
Thank you for inviting us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.